Shalom, shalom. Call halal Yahweh Shemel Shai Bahashem Rakakadash. Double honors unto the apostles and the elders of GMS. Salutations to my fellow laborers, the Akim, my brothers that do this work in truth and sincerity. The confusion of faith joined to our ranks. They go on the highways and byways doing this work, risking their lives and their freedom to do so. To the hopefully elect and the Akwathium that are listening and learning. To you, I say shalom. This is a map of America, of course, and the spots that are in the red, of course, are the hottest zones where, according to this chart and this guy, the most death is going to be. Truth be said, he's got it all wrong. The whole country's going to be red. All right? Because he's counting on law enforcement to control the green areas. Not saying that they're going to be fully safe, but they'll be better than most because of their economic importance. And the places where you see in the red are high concentrations of Jake in them too. And even some of those green ones too. But nevertheless, what he's not counting on is the people that he think is good are not. All right? These Edomites are going to turn on each other. He thinks that it's just going to be an inner city thing and problem and that sort of thing, but it's not. It's gonna be a neighbor against neighbor as well. So let me read that scripture first, all right, to start with that, because it's not just gonna be the element that he's gonna warn you of. It's gonna be something more. That's why I say it's gonna be a time like no time ever before in mankind, all right, because the so-called good citizens are gonna do some of the worst things. This is 2 Ezra 6 and 24, and it says, "And at that time shall friends fight one against another like enemies, and the earth shall stand in fear with those that dwell therein, and the springs of the fountains shall stand still, and in 3 hours they shall not run." All right? So the cities are going to go up, but the whole country is going to go up, because he thinks the green places are going to be protected, and no, the water's going to go off in all these places. And people are going to be killing each other and attacking each other for resources. So without any further ado, let's let it get rolling.
In a more genteel and polite time, I would be asking the women and young ladies in the audience to step out of the room so that I could have a conversation with the men. But given where we are right now, I clearly don't have that ability on YouTube. So I'm just going to give that warning ahead of time. This isn't going to be one of those feel-good videos again. Now, I made a video a week or two ago talking about where to be, where not to be when shit hits the fan. Caught a lot of crap for it. A lot of people are under this delusion that they're going to hole themselves up out in the middle of nowhere simply because it's the middle of nowhere and they think the populated areas are going to be dangerous. Generally speaking, that's a good idea. But there is a caveat that I don't think a lot of people have thought about, and I'm going to try to cover it in this video and just be straight up with you guys about how it's going to play. And this is how it's going to go. The one thing most survivalists don't ever consider is this. When shit hits the fan, and the U.S. government collapses, and they don't have the ability to take control of and maintain control of the prisoners, they're going to let them out. I know it sounds like the absolute backward-ass stupid thing to do, but if they can't feed them, and they can't maintain them, and they don't have the guards showing up for work, they're going to open the doors. And if they don't, these guys will find a way out.
If you remember when Venezuela, the footage of the prisons and the cannibalism and rape that was going on in the prisons in Venezuela when the guards stopped showing up to work after days of the prisoners not being monitored.
Now, why should you be worried about that? This is why. There are 2.3 million people confined right now in this country. Roughly half of those are for violent crimes and other things I'm not going to mention here. they're just going to be let walk. This doesn't include the people that have already been released from prisons that are basically behaving because they're afraid of going back to prison. Now,
there's also scriptures that said that the prison gates are going to open, which is manifold. All right, because the prisons of the mind, meaning you're going to learn the truth too. You know, the scriptures are manifold. But this is Isaiah 42:7. To open the blind eyes, to bring out the prisoners from the prison, and them that sit in darkness out of the prison house. So these prison gates are going to open up, both spiritually and physically. Okay? And he does mention something about the didn't do nothings. You know, that was his Edomite hatred shining through. Okay? There are so many men in prison that are innocent of the crimes that they were convicted of. And every week there's a new case of DNA evidence exonerating someone who's been in jail for 10, 15, 20, 30 years for crimes that they did not do. All right? So this system is corrupt, and it was set up, these private prisons, to be a housing place for the Israelites here in America. Okay? Because things that Jake goes to jail for, Edomites get a slap on the hand and probation or community service or something else. So I just thought I'd throw that in there because it's true.
there are only less than 1 million law enforcement officers combined in all states. Basically, the numbers are this: for every 1 law enforcement officer, there are 4 convicted violent criminals. Put another way, 1 law enforcement officer for every 4 square miles of the United States, where there are 4 thugs for that same amount of area to cover. Now, law enforcement is going to be forced to choose and make some hard choices about where they're going to have to put their resources. And it ain't going to be your farm out in the middle of nowhere. Once again, you ask, why should I be worried? They're going to be in the middle of all of the big populated areas. For a minute, you're right. But here's how it's going to play. The first thing they're going to do, once they realize nobody's going to stop them from doing anything they want to do, is they're going to go get down to their local car dealers and they're going to get a whole bunch of these and the keys so that they have transportation. The next place they're going to stop is, of course, the gas station, where all of you are already lined up anyway with your gas cans. Now, having already stopped here and gotten all armed up and ready to go, they're just going to take your gas cans and they're going to fill them up and they're going to load up their cars and they're going to be able to do whatever the hell they want to do. The next place they're going to stop here is at the pharmacy, and they're going to put a gun to the head of every pharmacist in, whatever region they're in, and they're going to get loaded up on pain pills and whatever the hell else they want to get high on. The next place they're going to stop is here, and they're going to raid the liquor stores. And they're probably going to stop and get some cigarettes along the way. Then, after they've taken and they've loaded up with whatever foodstuffs that they found at different places and have taken at armed, killed people or whatever, they're going to go try to find some place they can hide out. You see, and when they go to the gun store to get their arms, if the smart ones are going to find a list of who that gun store sold stuff to and where they can find even more guns. And more than likely, when they find places like this, they'll find vast prepper supplies ready to go. And there ain't going to be no 911 to call. And if you think you have enough rounds by yourself or your little group, you're out of your mind. These guys are going to come in force. They're going to come 2, 3, 4, 5 dozen at night. And you're not going to be able to get all of them. You'll get a couple of them, maybe. But they won't care, They will not care. They're going to be high as a kite, and they're going to want to be as far away from law enforcement as possible to do their dirty deeds. And this is where they're going to go. Because they're going to have unending access to vehicles, unending access to fuel, and they're going to turn into little mafias. And believe me, the cops are going to be taking care of government officials, government infrastructure.
Truth be said, the cops are going to be looking out for their own selves, because a lot of cops are going to be targeted. All right? They're going to be targets, because a lot of these guys are going to get out and go after the cops in the places in the cities where things were done to them. All right? And there are cop neighborhoods and cop bars and things of that nature. All right, so the cops are going to have their own issues, and a lot of them are just going to quit and not report to work because they're going to be trying to save themselves and their own families. You're going to be dealing with a lot of military, and then the same thing is going to happen to them eventually as well, because you're not going to, it's going to be hard for a man to go defend someone else's home when he knows his home is under attack. This is 2 Ezra 15 and 15. For the sword and their destruction draweth nigh. One people shall stand up and fight against another, swords in their hands, for there shall be sedition among men, invading one another, and they shall not regard their kings nor princes, and in the course of their actions they shall stand in their power. So they're going to disregard all authority. All right? And it's not just going to be these inmates. Truth of the matter is, these inmates are going to be very, very undisciplined, and with not that, he's giving them way too much credit. There will be a few who think that way. Some of them who may have a little education or been in the military before, but the majority of them are just going to be a bunch of wild, undisciplined jerks, just robbing, raping, and killing until they get raped or killed themselves. Okay? The people who are going to be doing what he's talking about the most are the actual citizens themselves. The citizens who didn't prep but are well armed are going to be the ones going for the ones that have been prepping all along. Okay?
And they'll get some of these guys, yeah. But they're not going to get all of them. And this is where they're going to go hide out. If you think you're going to hide up at one of these farms, you're going to be these guys right here on their knees. And this group of guys over here is going to be the ones that come take everything that you have out in the middle of nowhere. Now.
And if you've never seen that image that he's showing you, that scene was crazy, because he did beat two people's head in with that bat until their heads, their skulls look like hamburger meat. So the things that you're going to see, all right, they're going to set packs of pit bulls on people, packs of dogs. It's just going to be dog eat dog, just a crazy, crazy world when it finally does break down. Why do you think these apocalyptic movies are so popular? You know, these fall of the government, Civil War type, race war type, the Purge movies, Bushwick, the movie The Domestics, the movie The Gray State. All right. You know, and the last three movies that I mentioned, they try to limit the access of those movies to the public.
Are these places I have laid out in green going to be perfectly safe? No. But this is where the U.S. is going to prioritize putting law enforcement, because these are the wealthiest areas in the country. And that's just the reality. It ain't right. It ain't nice. You would think that everybody would be entitled to the equal amount of protection when shit hits the fan, human nature is going to take over.
They're going to leave these people to starve and fend for themselves, because the super rich, well, not the super rich, because the super rich have left already and have contingency plans to get out. The moderate rich are going to go into those bunkers and things on the ground, which is going to become their tombs eventually anyway. There's no escaping what's going to come. This is 2 Ezra 15 and 18. For because of their pride, the city shall be troubled, the houses shall be destroyed, and men shall be afraid. Verse 19, a man shall have no pity upon his neighbor, but shall destroy their houses with the sword and spoil their goods because of the lack of bread and for the great tribulation. So as I said, the worst crimes that are going to happen are going to come from the everyday model citizen that legally owns a firearm. All right? Especially the ones that knows that good old Jim Bob up the road has been stuffing food and things in that bunker. All right? And Jim Bob also happens to have a pretty wife and a pretty daughter that you always physically admire too. All right? So your own friends and neighbors are going to be the ones that they're going to turn on you. All right? And this is also when Isaiah 4:1 is going to really, really kick in. When you women are going to realize that you're not men and that this is a really, really bad time. All right? Women are gonna fall in line and realize that they are not men. Let's let this finish up.
They take a handful of oxys, and they got a big brand new car full of gas, and they got their weapons, and they got their liquor. And the reason that I asked a lot of folks to step out is this hard part right here. If you're willing to bet your life that I'm wrong, go ahead. But if I'm wrong, there's going to be the young women in your life that are going to pay, because there's something so much worse waiting for them when these guys get free.
So, as I've said before, you promiscuous women are going to be promiscuous against your will. All right? When there is no 911 and no lights, you'll be lucky if you're 3 men's girlfriend. All right? Some of you gonna be entertainment for 30 men at a time. And that is going to happen. All right? So you want to go to your slut march and be free to be a slut? That's going to happen, okay? To a lot of you, and it's just the reality of the truth. All right? This is just the reality of what's going to happen and what this society is heading to. This is Isaiah 4:1. And then that day 7 women shall take hold of one man, saying, we will eat our own bread and wear our own apparel. Only let us be called by thy name to take away thy reproach. Because only if you're under the anointing covering of a man of the Lord, all right, your reproach is going to be taken away. All right? And that's not my words. That's what the Bible said. Call halal Yahweh Shem Shai by Hashem Rakak Radash and Abba Babal.